to order. Flag salute, please, Aline.
Hand in your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United America,
and to the republic for
which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Aline, roll call, please.
Director Lang.
Present.
Director Nichols.
Yes.
Director Holt.
Here,
Director Huffer.
Yes.
Director Cuthbert. Yes.
Thank you. All board members are present. Moving on to item number 3, special presentations. We have none this evening. Item number 4, items from the public. Is there any public there who would like to speak? Yes.
Yes, we do have one public person here who would like to make a presentation.
Okay. Is that individual representing himself or an organization?
Yes, Victor, if you could grab him.
For himself.
Okay. And you have a card for that individual, Aline?
I have the card, Mr. Chair. I can go ahead and read it if you'd like.
Okay, go ahead, Director Nichols.
Yes, and for your information, Mr. Chair, the speaker is at the podium. I'm not quite sure what your visual perspective is there. We have with us Mr. Robert Munoz Atkinson, and he has a request to speak. So, Mr. Atkinson, as you can see, we're trying to do some teleconferencing. We have a few of our board members on a Zoom chat with us. We have restricted access here to try and comply with our COVID-19 requirements. Nonetheless, appreciate your correspondence, and you have time to please state your concerns. Just state your name and city residence for the record, please.
My name is Robert Munoz Atkinson. I'm a resident of the city of Thousand Oaks. I've come for 2 reasons. One, to ask the district to rescind their closing the dog parks, because when Governor Galvin Newsom issued Executive Order N33-20, he basically granted the Department of Public Health extraordinary powers of basically a blank check. They're not required to create any kind of metrics to determine the capability of the county or city to address their responses to this emergency that he ordered. I'm basically saying that unless they put some metric out there like hospital utilization, where they say we've got over 30% of our beds are occupied, we can't take anymore for whatever reason, at least something to allow the emergency services and public health officials to ascertain what is the true lack of capability by the county or city. Also, there was no time limit. The governor basically said that the state of objectives, and I say objectives because there was no time limit, there was no metric by the governor to say, hey, we will say we don't have to do this anymore. They just said our objectives are, our goal is simple. We want to bend the curve and disrupt the spread of the virus. That might be their intent, but it doesn't give any clear-cut guidance to public health officials of when there might not need to be a state of emergency. It does not measure the response, the capability of the counties and cities to respond to this state of emergency. So I'm just asking the board to rescind their closing the dog parks until they can ascertain is the city of Thousand Oaks or the county of Ventura incapable of responding to any to the current state of emergency of COVID-19. That's my first thing. My second thing is just the state of the condition of the dog park itself. There, I would like to say that I really like the dog park. I think it's great. use of the dog park has actually decreased during this time, but I think that it could be improved if periodically the district would say, we might need to partition off a little bit of the dog park to rejuvenate the grass, because it is in a sorry state in the grass area. So I'm just asking the district to consider ways to try to rejuvenate the grass areas, because some of the grass areas are starting to look more like dirt areas, and it's just a matter of getting some orange temporary fencing, putting it up and say, hey, don't cross here. We've got to just allow the grass to recover. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Staff, any comments, being that the whole situation is kind of in that category?
Sure, I'll provide some I guess context. Indeed, these are unprecedented times, and we're dealing with things in the most fluid way that I've personally ever worked in my 26 years in government. What's happening with the Park District, how we're getting some of our information is that every day at about 11, I'm on a phone call with the city department heads and the city manager, who had just gotten off a phone call with the city managers throughout Ventura County, including the county public health representatives, to provide kind of their latest updates. So a lot of the guidance and information that we're getting comes in on a daily basis, and some of this is calibrating what our agency does relative to other agencies. Believe me, we are in the business of providing parks, facilities, open spaces, and amenities. We're all about people gathering, but the public health officer in Ventura has made it abundantly clear that, you know, this is the time for us not to gather or be together, and to whatever we can do, especially in the next 2 weeks, they say are critical. And there's different websites you can look at, but there's guesstimations or estimations on when the peak might be if we do maintain these social separations, and it could be within the 2-week period here if we are able to stay apart and we actually can see an improvement. So I don't proclaim to be a public health expert. I'm simply relying on input I'm getting from professionals through my network, and trying to make decisions in the interest of the public health, knowing, of course, public health includes getting out, socializing, and walking. The good news right now is that the parks remain open. The neighbors to our east, the city of Westlake and the city of Calabasas, have closed their city parks entirely. We still have our parks open, so the walking paths around a park or just the grass and areas to walk within a park are still open as long as folks do maintain that separation. So unfortunately, some of the higher gathering areas we've had to close down. So the dog park is not alone. Skate parks, basketball courts, volleyball courts, pickleball courts, tennis courts, the bike jump park, the pump track, all of those amenities have been closed down in the last 2 days now. And it isn't what we would want to do. It's not our preference, but it's the reality of the situation. And we hope that if we can kind of get through and navigate these next 2 weeks, there might be and I don't know what the future might hold, but we're hoping there'll be a gradual lifting and allowing for folks to start to gather in groups again. But these are extraordinary and unprecedented times, and we hear you. And
can I make additional observations?
It's up to the board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the speaker would like to add a few comments, or would you care to entertain his request?
He would like to have some additional comments. Is that what I understand?
Yes, he'd like to add a few more comments.
Okay, and it's be limited to a couple minutes, Mr. Atkinson. And the other item you talked about in reference to the condition of dog park cannot be discussed because that was not agendized. Go ahead with your comments.
Okay, I'd like to remind the district members that Ventura County initially had a order that was less restrictive than the one they issued, I think, on the 20th of March. They were forced into doing that because of the governor's order. It seems like officials of lower governments are basically doing groupthink or just kowtowing to the state without any pushback. California has a very diverse county based on population density, based on socioeconomic status, based upon transportation. I could list it, and I've been writing to the governor, the Department of Health, the Ventura County Public Health Officer, everybody, and I know that nobody's really listening or cares. However, I think I've laid out some fairly good rationale, and I'd also like to remind the board that recently the trails near my house were closed. I personally have not gone on the trails, but there are a lot of people that have. So the board's decisions are causing people to see. You may not like it, but it's a fact.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Appreciate your comments. Okay, we're going on to item number 5, approval of the agenda.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Okay. Did I understand there was a desire to move a particular item?
Yes, we would like to request relocating item 9C to shortly after we approve the agenda before the consent calendar. We do have a guest speaker here this evening, and we'd like to be respectful of his time, give him a few moments, and then move on with the rest of the agenda. So if we could make that one change before we approve the agenda.
What's the change?
Moving 9C before item 6.
Yes, that's my understanding. Is that correct, Director Nichols?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, to entertain a motion as modified.
I'll make a motion that we've modified the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, modified as described. Any other discussion? Any other items need to be moved? If not, roll call vote, please.
Director Lang?
Yes.
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Holt?
Yes.
Director Huffer?
Yes.
Director Cuthbert? Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. With that, we're going to move to item 9C, agreement between the Canary Valley Unified School District and the Canary Recreation and Park District for joint use of facilities. Staff, please.
Thank you, Chair Lang, members of the board, and thank you for moving the item up, because we do have Victor Hayek, who is the Deputy Superintendent of Business Services, in the audience with us today. He has worked very hard on this agreement with myself, and we're excited to be able to present it today and hopefully move forward with our continued very long-standing partnership. So in 1988, CVUSD and CRPD entered into an agreement of joint use in regards to our properties, our individual properties. And over the last 30 years, we've had very good relationships. We do lots of things in their schools, in their gyms, and their theaters, and they do a lot of things in the afternoon at our facilities, at our fields, and so forth. And so when Victor started in about 2016, which was about the same time that I started, we all started learning more about our potential organizations and realized that many of our agreements were quite old, 20 plus years. So we started looking at updating them and learning more about whether they were meeting the needs or things needed to be changed. So Victor took the lead on this one for us, and so a couple of the highlights of this agreement, pretty much exactly the same with a couple little tweaks. We have agreed to have a meeting between Victor and I or other school personnel and other CRPD personnel between January and March of every year just to go over the contract and make sure that things are looking good, that things are still the same, that there's nothing that we need to change or maneuver. We also, on this agreement, there is a effective date, so it will go into effect when it's signed, and it will go until June 30th, 2023, with the ability to do 3-year extensions on it. So again, just making sure that staff are meeting and discussing and keep our relationships going between the two organizations. The other couple of things were, one of the things we had in the agreement was that either organization, we could only increase our use over 10% over a 2-year period. We both agreed that we're both pretty much at capacity for organizations using our facilities and stuff, so we've taken that down to a 5% increase, just to kind of make sure that we're leaving space open to all organizations within the community. And we had some clarifications regarding personnel, security, general exclusions, and fingerprint requirements. And so I believe we might have one board member that wants to make a suggestion that I heard, but I also wanted to give Victor the opportunity if he wants to say anything. So.
Thank you. Just echo that, we have a great relationship between our 2 agencies. For as long as I've been here and long before that, I think the school district and the park district have worked extremely well together to provide our community opportunities for recreation. As a father of 3 of my kids are intertwined in a number of the activities. So I'm very appreciative of what you do both on a personal and professional level. So this agreement will just enable us to continue our working relationship. And as we update all the rest of our other agreements, we'll be doing the same thing with the one goal in mind, making sure that our facilities are available for the community to use for recreation or whatever activities that Crpd wants to put on, and vice versa. You've been very generous in allowing us to use some of your facilities for not only our high school sports, but some of our other activities and groups. So we're very appreciative. And this will be, if it's approved tonight, on the Board of Education meeting agenda next Tuesday, which is April 7th, for approval. And then we'll just have an agreement moving forward.
Thank you.
I'm available for any questions.
I have a question.
Staff?
I was just wondering, so the only change that's been made is this 10% down to 5%, correct?
There was some other clarifying things just on like fingerprinting background stuff that wasn't in the first agreement that
I
is
see.
now clarified in there.
Okay. I move approval of
Well, there might be other comments or questions.
Right.
Okay, any other board members like to make a comment on this particular item? Hearing none, go ahead, Director Holt.
I move approval of the agreement between Kanay Rec and Park District and the Kanay Valley Unified School District regarding joint use of facilities.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Was that Director Cusworth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any additional comments or questions associated with this item? If not, roll call vote, please.
Director Lang,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Holt,
Yes.
Director Hopper,
Yes.
Director Cuthbert. Yes.
Motion passes. We're now going to item number 6, consent calendar. 6A, approval of the minutes of March 19th, 2020. And then B, approval of the warrant as indicated in the staff report.
I move approval of the consent calendar 6A and 6B.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Huffer. Any comments or questions? If not, roll call vote, please.
Director Lang,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Holt,
Yes.
Director Hopper,
Yes.
Director Cuthbert. Yes.
Very good. We're going on to item number 7, deferred matters. And we do have the public hearing. So I'm going to open the public hearing associated with our preliminary budget fiscal year 2020, 2021. Any public present like to make a comment associated with our preliminary budget?
No, we do not have any public present for any comments, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Director Nichols. I'm closing public comment. We're now going on to item 8, items for discussion, and we have none.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
I apologize. Items for discussion, CRPD update regarding COVID-19 local emergency. Staff, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair Lang and members of the board. Just wanted to provide you, the board, and also the public, a sense of this past month or so, actually more like 3 weeks, and some of the things that have happened here in the district, and some of this the board may know about, most of it the board will know about, but there might be a few nuggets here that's new to the board, but because we're now on TV or a Zoom meeting, I'm going to be a little more thorough, and hopefully some folks of the public that are curious might know, hear about what's going on. On March 12th, the governor issued his executive order N2520, which canceled events greater than 250 and started this new phraseology about social distancing and staying 6 feet apart. And our mindset at the time was, wow, 250 people, that's tough. We can still do most of our operations. Let's do a whole big giant policy and change our framework around and start working toward, canceling anything that might be more than 250, but still having everything else go full steam ahead. But as we kind of got further into it and some of the guidance that came out right upon the issuance of the order, it became clear facilities like the senior center should close more quickly because of the higher density of vulnerable populations. So the next day, on March 13th, the senior center closed. On the 13th, we then canceled the winter programs and started to proceed with refunds. On the 14th, the following day, all the remaining community centers were closed. This building, Hillcrest Center, the administrative offices did remain open to the public. And we canceled all of CRPD sports. On the 16th, the park restrooms were closed. The sports fields and picnic reservations were then canceled. Then on the 17th, Ventura County Public Health issued its shelter-in-place order, ordering vulnerable individuals and some businesses to close. Then, in light of that, we made some other decisions. We made senior nutrition takeout on the 18th. This board on the 9th declared a local emergency, and that takes us, that was 6 days right there. So all that just happened in 6 days' time. On the 20th, then Ventura County issued its stay well at home order, which is essentially what we've been operating under since on the 20th. That has remained largely the same. That really caused businesses and local governments to, and the general public, to think about what is an essential activity, what are essential businesses, what are essential operations, and it prohibited the gathering of 10 or more people, which is why you'll see there's not more than 10 people in our boardroom tonight. On the 20th, I had the not fun task, along with Rochelle, of letting the part-time employees that have been so loyal, valuable, and essential, and frontline workers available to the district, we had to let them know that there may not be sufficient hours for them to work in light of all these orders, and that whatever remaining leave balances are available to them, and that they are able to take advantage of the California unemployment offices, and that was not a fun thing to do. Full-time employees were notified that all of their leave balances were available for anyone that wished to stay home for personal reasons, or just the sense that they didn't want to be out. I should go back. When we had to decide what was essential business operations, of course, the parks and landscaping were considered in the order to be essential in terms of the public getting out and being able to be out in a safe place. So the park side of the house has largely been busier, I would say, than normal, especially you know, the rangers, the folks that on the park side that might be emptying trash cans. The volume of people in our parks has increased quite a bit. We also finally, on the 20th, we closed this office to the general public, Hillcrest Center, and canceled all of the spring programs and classes and started to issue refunds. The 22nd was when the trail stuff started to happen. The Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and MRCA, just right next door to us, closed its trails. Then the that caused on the 27th, the LA County Public Health ordered all of public trails, trailheads, beaches, piers, and bike paths to close. In light of that order and being right on the county line, we were very concerned about the volume of people that may come to the Casca Trail. So that night, we being the city of Thousand Oaks and the Park District leadership were on the phone and collectively determined to close the Casca Trails the following day. So that's when the trails closed on the 28th. The county followed the LA County with a modified stay well at home order, closing the RV parks and campgrounds, which includes some of the familiar county parks in Ventura, and further tightened what the definition of essential functions and businesses were, and ordered all swimming pools except those in backyards to be closed. And during all this change and fluidity, staff has been remarkable in terms of trying to keep people informed in this very fluid environment, ever-changing. Finally, some folks were able to catch their breath, and CRPD on the 31st, which is only a few days ago, was able to launch our virtual recreation center, which I think we want to show you. Look at that. Way to go, Mark. So Mark is pulling up on the screen. You'll notice on our homepage. Mark, if we might first show the timeline of the updates. Let's go to that first, just the COVID-19 updates. So for the board and the public, we're actually keeping a running timeline on our website of the decisions, and actions that are occurring within the district. So you'll be able to scroll down and see when we closed what. So what I just kind of went through orally is actually, a lot of it is on our website. So when somebody opens up the COVID-19 updates, they'll see the most recent information up top. But as you go down to the bottom, you'll be able to see what we did when in time. But in terms of the virtual rec center, I think I'm going to turn it over to Rochelle to chat a little bit about what is on that page and what you might be able to find.
Great, thank you. So just back up to the COVID-19 one, also in the very beginning when all the rules and ordinances and laws were coming out, if you scroll to the bottom based off of the dates that those things came out, there are like links to those different things. So the CDC website and Ventura County. So there's a lot of good websites there if people are looking for updates and whatnot on an ongoing basis. And then back to the virtual rec center. So we got this up and running, and I have to say that there are many other cities and rec departments that are doing it. So we gleaned and shared a lot of information, and our marketing team has worked very, very hard, and they're working a whole lot right now. But on here, there's links to different things. You can take online free yoga classes, kids classes, jazzercise classes, outdoor activities, and in the future, some of our staff are actually making like videos doing story time, or singing songs, or doing activities, or showing kids how to kick a soccer ball outside, or doing scavenger hunts and stuff like that. Some of them you can already see on specifically the Orchard website and their Instagram page and the Orchard Skate Park Instagram page. But we're going to start adding some of our own stuff to this also, so people will be able to see their actual teachers from their classrooms and stuff like that in a little video. So just a wealth of information, and we do have the online art gallery right now is at the bottom. It will eventually move to the top. We've got some ads running in the Acorn, and if you haven't seen those are on page 2 in the Acorn the last 2 weeks, and we have 6 more weeks that we're going to be have committed to. And there's some contests for the kids to put their artwork on Instagram or our Facebook page, or email it in to a specific website, and then our marketing department will be adding it onto the art gallery. So we'll be announcing winners and stuff like that. There's opportunities for people in the community to get involved and potentially win $25 towards the program. So that's it.
Cool. And if I may just continue just a little bit longer, and then obviously open up for questions. But the last couple days have been rough, as the surrounding communities have made some tough calls. We're in the rec and park public space field are all calibrating a little bit off each other. Some might say it's just groupthink, but it's also public health agency directives are getting clearer and more concerned about what we will see in the next couple weeks. So on 4/1, which was just yesterday, right? It's like every day is a week. 4/1, we closed the skate park, tennis courts, pickleball courts, basketball, pump track, and the bike park. And today, 4/2, we closed the dog park, off-leash areas, and volleyball courts. Really, they're intended to dissuade people. The reality is, based on observation, personal observation, staff observation, and public emails and concerns sent to the district, those are the facilities where the 6-foot separation was not routinely adhered to, that people had been coming into closer contact. And even with the dog park, I think there's more information that, you know, a person with COVID, not knowing they have it, pets their dog, loves their dog to death, gives their dog big kisses, and then that dog is up in the face of another dog or even another person, you know, that can be a transmission source as well. So this is all about public health and safety. We're hoping that absence makes the heart grow fonder, and that when this all passes, able to come back, they're really excited to rejoin us in the parks and in those facilities. And I know each one of us here would prefer to keep operating, but it's not the time to do that. I would also mention today, we are retooling to provide some of the essential things that are needed in the community. And I will say that I personally was pretty surprised. Food Share came to do a food distribution at Canal Creek South today. They brought 400 meals, not totally sure how many might show, and they were empty long before their allotted time to hand out the food. So they will probably be ramping up to many more meals to be handed out. They're currently scheduled to be at Canal Creek South on Thursdays, and they may add a second day. They mentioned maybe even Saturday today. We had a blood drive at the teen center last week, and we had actually another one today. we've had 3 so far. So we've had 3 blood drives because, of course, with the separation, a lot of people are not giving blood yet. There remains a need for blood in hospitals, so that's great. We have a really generous community doing lots of amazing things. And then, of course, our senior nutrition is just serving more and more and more people. We've 80, so 80 today in the senior nutrition takeout program. So that's what's going on. We did hear, I think earlier, about Las Virgenes closing for the remainder of the school year, and I think we know that about Canay Valley Unified School District now as well. So we also know that the school facilities are not going to be available until July at the earliest, July 1. That does affect what our normal summer program schedule would be as well. To get an anticipation or a sense of how that might affect us economically, we can chat about that a little later on your rec highlights. That might be a low light that you have on the back is some information about some of the fees that we've already returned and the programs that we've canceled. So that's obviously a thing for us all to be aware of and concerned with. So a lot is going on. Rochelle's got the job of doing a lot of staffing, management, and getting folks doing lots of different things. Tom and his staff are busier than ever, and thankfully Tom got a great practice last year with all the FEMA applications. So we hit our FEMA logging and tracking of our time and hours and definitions. That was all second nature. When Tom turned that out, staff all said, "Oh, we know what to do." And so we're tracking our time in the event when this is all said and done, the federal government has any money left, and there might be the opportunity to claim some reimbursements through FEMA, but who knows with how severe this is. And then Melissa, with some help from Cheryl, has been working closely with Mark and our IT stuff and all this virtual stuff we're trying to do, and also, and really specifically on the new Families First Act and the care schedule legislation, and trying to interpret that and apply it properly with guidance from big law firms doing webinars and phone calls. And just so you have an appreciation of how this goes, we got the law, we're trying to interpret it and apply it, and Shelley, our HR director, provided through our regular law firm a helpful frequently asked questions for interpreting portions of this and how to apply some of the different leave balances and how the federal legislation. It was a 60-page Q&A, so it's a pretty complex situation, and we're navigating it. The staff is doing a fantastic job. There's fewer and fewer of us in the building all the time. We have moved to an A, B, and C if somebody goes down, then they know exactly who B is, and if that A and B are down, we know who C is for all the different positions in the district. So we are ready to weather it, and we're moving on. And of course, Aline is being tremendous with keeping all these crazy balls in the air as we go. So I appreciate the board's support, understanding, cheerleading as we kind of go through what's been really unique, I know, for every single person in the room. So that is a very thorough update, but I'm sure there's questions and we are available for them.
Well, first of all, a big thank you to staff being so flexible and coming up with such great ideas and modifying your normal work situation. So kudos to all of you and to the other staff members who aren't present, but and also the part-timers that aren't able to continue to participate. Okay, questions of staff associated with the report?
I have a question.
Okay, Director Cusworth.
Okay, this is directed to Mrs. Callis. So I'm wondering on the facilities being closed through at least June 30th, if saying this blows over, which it probably won't, and if they start opening up stores and malls and saying things are, gonna probably be having regular classes, but could the facilities be open for maybe pick up basketball or short classes or anything, or is this a definite that you're going to go till the June 30th?
So currently, well, obviously we're keeping an eye on the rules and the regs and the protocol of what CDC and Ventura County is saying. But currently what we have said is that our facilities are closed until May 3rd. And we're waiting to see, and we've been watching what the school district does. And now as of today or late yesterday, we learned that the school district will not be opening at all this year. So I think I would like to wait a couple more weeks before we extend, as we wait to continue to see what's going to happen out there as far as closures. We've gone to May 3rd is what we have in writing right now on the website. But the school district, it is my understanding that we will not be able to use their facilities until possibly the beginning of July, because they are closed for the rest of this year. So Victor and I will be touching base on a monthly basis to see what the updates are and what changes. As you know, everything changes, it seems like every hour or sometimes faster than that. So we are in a position where we are planning and hopeful that as the restrictions ease up, we will glide into those. So if we're able to open facilities, we'll open facilities. If we're able to have classes of 10 or more, we'll do that. It just depends on what gets released as far as our regulations. But we are under the impression at this time that we will not be using any school facilities until the earliest of July 1.
But our facilities have the possibility of opening. You're just keeping that open at this point. Okay.
As soon as we get the thumbs up to release some things, then we'll work on how do we do that and how do we work within those rules.
Okay. Any other board member questions?
I have a question.
Director Holt.
I was just wondering, and this is for personal reasons, but there was a list of fitness classes, etc. Is that online somehow? I mean, can people who were not involved in those classes see some of the fitness programs that are going on?
Yes, if you go to the virtual website that's on our webpage, I think Mark can pull it up and share the screen with you so you can see it.
Okay.
He's going to show you right now. We'll have to go to the front page. But on the stay active part,
Okay.
you go down yoga and you just click on that link and it'll take you to free yoga classes.
Okay,
And
so
you
you,
can do it on your computer or your iPhone or your iPad or whatever it is. And as we find different things, we're making them available to you guys. So there's all sorts of different classes and stuff.
okay, so it's crpd.org and then virtual-recreation center.
Mark,
Okay.
can you go back one page? Right there, the virtual recreation center with the kind of blue.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It's all there.
Okay. Any other board member have questions?
Dr.
Yes,
Lang?
Director Huffer.
Yeah, first of all, I'd just like to add my thanks. Director Lang already said for what the staff's been doing. The last several weeks have to have been just absolutely mind-numbing with what you've gone through and what you've done in that short period of time. I hadn't seen the website with the virtual stuff that you've added, so I'm gonna have to check that out. And I appreciate as much as you've been able to make sure that we and the board are kept at least somewhat informed as the changes are happening on a daily basis. I know you're updating that page, but I would encourage you, because at least I personally, I don't check the website on an hourly or daily basis. So if you push some of that stuff out to us as opposed to our having to find it ourselves, it'd be greatly appreciated. I do. You were talking about the trail closures. I did happen to go by Wildwood Saturday morning on my Director Lang calls it my walk. I call it a slow jog, but whatever it is I'm doing, I went by there, and at least on Saturday morning, there was another sheriff's deputy who was parked down there. I'm guessing that was just a one-time deal, that they're not going to be permanently stationed down there or anything.
Well, not permanently, but I think in the short term they will be there with much greater frequency than they have in the past because of, you know, that popularity of that website. And so there will be more frequent visits from the sheriff and TOPD officers down to the end of Arvillus. Okay.
Now, would I be correct in assuming that although we have all of these closures, some places like the parking lot at Wildwood, we can lock the gates and keep people out that way, but we're relying mostly on peer pressure and community pressure to have people abide by the signs, and we're not running around and citing people if we see them in the park or at the dog park or something like that, are we?
No, this is, look, we're in an unprecedented situation, and there's no way that realistically the park district itself, even the park district along with all of the officers in Ventura County, can keep people from following every rule that's come down through the last few weeks with these extraordinary limitations on what we're all used to being our personal freedoms. And so the social compact we all have amongst each other about what it means to be a citizen, what it means to be part of the city, state, country that we're in, we need to all sort of agree that we're going to kind of get through this together and try our best to follow the law, because the health of people that we know and love could be in jeopardy if, we keep allowing folks to give COVID a chance to keep going from person to person. So I think the next 2 weeks, I think, are going to be probably the most important 2 weeks, and then we'll be able to kind of pay attention to what we've been able to do and how well the social separation is happening. But no, we are not, doing a gotcha or looking for opportunities to give people tickets or anything like that. That's not at all what's happening. At most, from us, you'll probably get a gentle reminder about what the rule is, unless there's some egregious, violation or something. But really, this is about us all relying on each other to follow the rules.
Okay. I know that all kinds of events, large and small, throughout the community are being either postponed or canceled. We have several major spring events that were scheduled at Canal Creek North and Canal Creek South. Have any or all of those been canceled at this point, or is that still sort of up in the air?
Well, the big north ones, the ones we manage, the Persian New Year already passed and kind of without a peep. So that occurred, and there weren't many people there. Chili Cook-Off has been canceled, and I don't even think they're trying to reschedule. They're just canceling Chili Cook-Off, the Thousand Oaks Rotary. Oakhart Country Music Festival is on the bubble. They haven't really told us whether they're going to try to go forward or not. Theirs is scheduled for June, beginning of June. And then Canal Valley Days is canceled for the dates that it had, which was early May. But they are hoping and looking to maybe get onto Canal Creek South during what would normally be field refurbishment anyway, not to get on the field per se, but only use the parking lot. So operate Canal Valley Days entirely within the asphalt and not be on the grass. So we're doing field refurbishment on South anyway. That's our normal schedule, so nobody's using that parking lot anyway. So if they shrink it or fit it within a little smaller footprint, Canal Valley Days still may try to happen sometime this summer, but that's a wait and see, and of course a Frank Acre call. Any other big events?
Are concerts in the park?
We have about another 2 weeks before we have to decide on the Memorial Day concert. We have about 2 more weeks. That one may get scrapped, but we keep hoping, the further something is into the summer, the more likely it might occur. Of course, at the back end of this, it's really hard to predict what human behavior and our whole psyche might be like. So we hope people come back when it's safe to do so, but COVID isn't going to completely disappear. There's no way that it's going to completely disappear. So it'll still be out there, and I think there'll still be some concern. So we'll just have to wait and see how people behave and react to that once we are allowed to start to regather and stuff.
All right. Well, as I said, I'm going to have to check out that activities webpage that Rochelle and Mark and all you folks there have put up. I'm definitely going to check out that pig cam. That looks fascinating. So.
If I may, Chair Lang, one other big event that, really, really big event, in fact, I was dealing with it today, that 4th of July. Our contract with 4th of July requires us, if we cancel within, before 90 days, we get all of our money back under the contract. If we wait until after the 90-day window, then we are out half of the cost of the entire fireworks show up until some other date. So I have proposed to the fireworks vendor that they allow us to cancel up to 45 days out so that we can kind of hold out hope. But if not, we may not have a 4th of July fireworks show either. It depends on kind of the vendor. And right now, there's indication they're willing to do that. So we have maybe a little more time on that as well before we have to decide.
Okay, very good. I have a couple of questions. Any more? Board members have comments or questions for the staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I have
Mr. Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. General Manager, I know you did us a thorough review, and I know I can't even say daily, it's moment by moment, things are continuing to change. I think my wife got 3 school closure dates all within probably 8 hours. Things have changed 3 times. So I know it's very dynamic, and it's not something that we've dealt with before and could anticipate something in the past to reflect on. But I guess my kind of overall question is, with the various orders, recommendations, guidelines, protocols, you name it, what ultimately do you rely on for making the best decisions possible at this point? Health related from the Ventura County Health Office? Is it in the meetings with city staff? Where is our best intelligence, so to speak, coming from to make these informed decisions? It's not just a, last 15 minutes, looking to see which way the wind is blowing and, throw a blade of grass in the air so we can make those decisions. How is that actually happening in a structured sense?
So I think the biggest and main driver is Ventura County Public Health. That's even bigger than the state because Ventura County Health is paying attention to what's happening in our county. Because we're right on the border of LA County, we also are watching what they're doing because they're our very close neighbors, and it's hard to imagine that we would somehow be, wildly immune from LA County's experience. So we're watching what the Ventura County and LA County public health officers are saying and the guidance that they are giving. And I've watched their formal orders, their guidance that they publish along with them, along with frequently asked questions, and it is very clear they are growing more concerned about ensuring that we stay home and stay separated. So to the extent this district can help encourage that to be the case, we want that to be the case. So that would be why some of those high frequency touch contact recreational amenities, we've closed those down. The trails is kind of a balance between the health concerns, but also the fact that we can't be the last person standing or almost the last person standing offering trails to all of West LA County, the 10 million people in LA, along with the Canal Valley. So that is in part due to the fact that it would be really hard to be the last open space agency offering trails to so many people, because we anticipate just being overrun. So that is maybe more as much of management of the open space as it is the health concerns. And we do those decisions in conjunction with the city, because COSCA is a joint powers. The way I do get a lot of information, like I said earlier, is I'm on an almost daily call with the city manager and the department heads, and our conversation immediately follows his conversation with county officials about the state of the health concerns in the county. So, and of course, I do reach out to fellow Rec and Park agencies. Dan Pernick from Rancho Simi and Mary Otten from Pleasant Valley and I have agreed to kind of always give the other a heads up before we make a change, just so that we all know what each other are doing. That's why I'm most calibrating CRPD off of. But also, you know, we're in bed with MRCA and the Conservancy, so we're aware of what they're doing. And then, you know, smaller cities to the east, you know, two of the three have just shut down their parks altogether. So we're kind of in the middle, from some folks that still have stuff open to some people shutting it down altogether. We're sort of in between those two extremes.
Okay, and then I'm also going to ask a question which I know doesn't have an answer, but I want to at least throw it out there. There's been a lot of efforts to take actions to close things, shut things, stop things from happening, but there's no guidelines as to when this might be phased open into the future. Has there been any discussions, whether it be locally or beyond, as to, you know, when can we start seeing, hey, we can open a center, we can open a trail, when certain things happen? Has that been on the table for discussion at all?
We've wondered. I think the guidance will come from Ventura County Public Health primarily, because, you know, we don't know. We don't know, like we were talking about, this is like one day they're just going to pick a day and say everything's back to normal. We sort of doubt that, and we think they may unwind the restrictions and sort of the layers that they were added on. So like right now, we are not supposed to be together with more than 9 people. It's hard to run a park agency in that context, or have people gather in recreational facilities. We are supposed to stay 6 feet apart. So I think those two things alone have to be lifted before we can really modify what we're doing with closures, right? The 9, no more than 9 people together, and the staying 6 feet apart. So it'll be the health department making the calls.
Okay, and are you given leeway as the district manager? Not that they have to give you authorization, but yeah, it kind of goes back to my partial question beginning. Are these orders, recommendations, you know, guidelines? Is there a different array where sometimes it's a recommendation, or other times it's an order?
Yeah, so the main published orders are like on their websites, and anyone can go see them at either Ventura County Public Health, LA County Public Health. You can see their orders, and then they offer written guidance and suggestions. LA County has actually ordered the parks, the trails and parks closed, beaches, piers. Ventura County has done that for their RV parks, campgrounds, and I believe beaches. But Ventura County has not issued an order requiring us to shut down any specific amenities. And so that has really been calibration based on the guidance and recommendations to encourage people to stay a safe distance. And I will say, we also are paying attention to and listening to what we get from our own public. So the public does contact staff at every level with their thoughts and opinions about everything we do. You know, we are really integral into the community, and there are a lot of people that have been very concerned by the numbers of people and the proximity of people to each other in our parks. And so we are also in part reacting to that.
Thank you. I know it's a very challenging time, and we appreciate your efforts as well as all the staff, because I know it does change moment by moment. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you, Director Nichols. I have a question for, first of all, Mr. Hare. We're talking about, the 6-foot separation, and we often have multiple maintenance groundskeepers working in the same park or traveling to the park in a same truck. How are you handling that?
Well, first of all, talk about the trucks. We don't have the guys riding in the same truck. What we've done, instead of, in general, before we would have quite a few of the folks report to either Orchard or Oak Brook Service Yard, and then they go out from there. We'd have some people report directly to their park. Now we're giving everybody an assignment to report directly to a particular park. And if a grounds worker reports to a park, his crew leader might come by and drop off some tools for him at that particular park, and then come back later on and take the tools home, and the grounds worker would stay there for the whole day. And the situations where we have multiple grounds workers at a particular park, they report separately there directly, and then they remain with the social distancing while they're working, while they're there.
Very good. Thank you. Rochelle, on that virtual recreation part of our site, I thought I saw something like 2 months free. I'm not sure what the program was. It went by pretty quickly. But is there a charge for any of the activities that we're offering?
So my understanding is everything that's on the website right now is complimentary currently. The one that we had clicked on was the yoga one, and it looked like it had a sign up and you get 2 months free. So it's probably, individual or businesses that are encouraging people to sign up, and you'll get your 2 months for free, and then you just stop using it. Or if you really like it, you might sign up for it and keep going.
That's the exact one that caught my eye. But so the rest of the programs, you talked about, I think, some games or other activities for young kids. There is no charge currently for that. That's all complimentary.
Yeah, I believe everything on that website right now is free. So all the links that we have done, they all have some kind of free component to it. Now, I can't guarantee that once you look at the free component, there might be, and hey, if you pay $5 a month, you might get this extra stuff. But it's all stuff that is initially free.
Great.
Could I add on to that quickly? Sir, Chair Lang, can I add a comment quickly to that?
Yes.
Inco Yoga for me, it is one of those. It is free. I use it. And then if you want the extra ones, you can sign up for maybe 2 months. But if you can go on there, and about a third or more of their classes are free, and you don't have to sign up to do those. So they don't take your credit card, which usually the 2 months is free. You take your credit card and start charging you. So.
Okay. And I thought in the flash going by that there was a class in teaching gardening. Anyway, it's a great idea. I'm so glad that we're able to offer it, and you and staff were able to put it together in such a short time. So good job. Very good.
George?
Yes, Director Holt.
I just want to alert Mark that what has happened to my computer now, I have a side screen and I see the three of us and the main office.
Yeah.
but the rest of my screen is back to all the virtual recreation center information.
That's all Mark's
Yes,
fault.
he
Mark
did it. Mark went to it, that's why.
Okay, well, it's the whole screen. We're
Yes.
in.
Right.
That's what we all see, Susan.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
How
Mark, we're
should
through.
we get
looking
out
at-
of that?
There you are.
Oh, we're back.
Yeah,
Well, Mark is fantastic, so thank you, Mark.
okay. Any other comments associated with the item for discussion? If not, we're moving on to item number 9, new items. 9A, resolution 04022-A, requesting consolidation of CRPD election with November 3rd, 2020 general election county. Staff, please.
Thank you, Chair Lang, members of the board. I had Aline prepare this, so I just forgot that I was even going to give the staff report. So as I'm sitting here looking at it now, this is Aline's report, and I'm sure she could do the report if she wanted, but I'll jump on it. And the November 2020 election is coming up, and every 2 years before the Canary Park District has its elections in November, the County of Ventura asks if we would like to have our election consolidated with their election, which of course provides a great deal of savings. To operate our own election would be tremendously expensive. To piggyback on their election is much more cost effective. So as we have done in every election since I've been here, and I'm sure many, many more, we have consolidated with the County of Ventura, and we pay our fair share of the elections cost at the end when all the other agencies are all added up. So with that, I'm going to go over for questions.
Okay, are there any questions of the general manager on this item?
Just a quick comment.
Yes, Director Huffer.
So you mean to say before 1980, we didn't have to pay for our candidate statement, huh?
Yeah. They're getting more expensive too.
Yes, they are.
Okay, as is everything. If
Okay,
there are no further comments or questions, we have a resolution.
I would like to make a recommendation that we adopt resolution 04022-A, requesting consolidation of the district election with statewide general election.
I'll second that.
Let it be read in title only.
That it be, okay, read in title only, and all future readings be waived.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the resolution. No further comments or questions. Elaine, roll call vote, please.
She needs to read the resolution first.
Oh, thank you.
Director Lang, I have a comment.
Yes,
It might just be.
go ahead,
I
Director
mean,
Kessler.
we wrote this, and it might just be nitpicking on this, but it does say that, that each candidate would pay a prorated share of the cost of printing, but I think that's only if the candidate opts to submit a statement. If the candidate does not opt to submit a statement, they are not going to pay a prorated share of the cost of printing and handling of the statement. And
That's
additional
correct.
mailing of materials. So, I mean, that should be obvious in there, but it is not a requirement for the candidates to make a statement.
They know that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that, I know that we all know that, but if this is something that we're adopting, I'm wondering if does that need to be qualified, that candidates do not need to make a statement and then they are not?
No,
No, because there's a form. There's
That's
a
not
form
part of
we
the
submit.
formal resolution itself, Nellie.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. All right, we can go ahead.
Okay, and you've completed your reading. Elaine?
I didn't start, so. Resolution number 0402220-A, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Canay Recreation and Park District requesting that its general district election to be held on November 3rd, 2020 be consolidated with other elections called to be held on the same day and in the same territory.
Thank you. With that, any other comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Director Lang,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Holt,
Yes,
Director Huffer,
Yes,
Director Cusworth.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously. We're moving on to item 9B, facilities and filming fees and charges, excuse me. Rochelle, I believe this is your report.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Lang, members of the board. So this is our facilities and filming fees charges. Normally what would happen about this time of the year is we would potentially bring to the board, staff would bring to the board, if there were going to be any increases or suggested increases. This upcoming year, we had planned to bring some possible changes in regards to the field rental fees for sports organizations, but due to everything going on in our environment right now with the COVID-19, we feel that staff would like to recommend that we go ahead and keep all of the filming facility and field fees the same as they currently are for the 1920 year. And then what I'd like to propose is that you guys are aware of the fact that in the next 2-year budget, I would be bringing back to you some possible changes or tweaks that we may make to the field and sports fees potentially in the near future to get them more up to some market rates. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Rochelle. Are there any questions on this filming item? Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have a question, I guess, and also a comment. With the traditional process that this has gone through in the past, when there has been a approval to change fees, when does that fee change take place?
It actually depends a little bit. Usually the majority of the fees would change on July 1. With the sports organizations specifically, because they only do their fees and their scheduling twice a year, it's usually a little bit later, so they know about it, they usually receive a letter, they're involved in what's happening, they are aware of it. But last time we had an increase, I believe the fee increase did not happen until February 1st for the youth sports organizations that are in our allocation, not just regular people that just want to rent the field. That all changes in July 1.
Okay, so it's different fees are implemented at different times throughout the year then, it sounds like.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so whether it be your programming fees, say they start January 1st, your team fees start February 1st, whatever, certain things like that?
All of these end up changing July 1. We try to do all the fees. Now, for programs and classes and stuff, we try to do it before summer. Everything else, all the rental fees, July 1. Except we give it to our allocation sports organizations, which is about 20 to 30 organizations that use our allocation process, because it's twice a year, so they go a little bit later. So the July 1 isn't when they would be turning stuff in.
Yep.
Later. Theirs goes into effect a little bit later.
And I guess what I was thinking of was, if we were to move forward with something like this, would there be benefit to going ahead and, for example, I know you're not proposing or you don't have any changes for us here, but proposing some change increases, but have it out there like a year in advance, where that 10% or 20% increment is set and approved, but it's not going to take place for another year. That way it allows for the pre-planning, whether it be organizations or whatever, to know so they can start gearing up, especially with this year being so uncertain and a lot of it's just kind of gone by the wayside, that they have a year plan. And we can get that set up and processed and not have to, wait and then go through that typical process where maybe they have less time to plan accordingly.
We always give them about 6 months notice before anything's going to happen, and we will have the sports organization's input. We were supposed to, before kind of all this happened, we were going to be having a meeting with them in June. So needless to say, that's kind of been on the back burner. And so, yes, we will plan 6 months, a year before it would go into effect. Meetings with them, make sure they're understanding what's going on, getting information from them, getting information, seeing how it'll impact, and then coming up with a plan. Because whatever happens, it's going to probably be a longer process than, hey, on this date, this is the big new fee. It'll probably be something that is gradually put into place over time. So the good news is that many of our fees, our regular district and our out-of-district fees, are in line with our neighboring cities, or they were about a year ago, and we had done the market study before they had raised their fees. So I believe we're very close, if not in line, as far as our in-district and out-of-district. Where we're missing the boat a little bit is our organizations that are paying 25% of that fee or 50% of that fee, which a lot of other organizations don't have that. They have 3 categories, which would be a 75%, and 100%, and 150%. So I've got some plans. It's based off of the last market study that we did and some information so that we can try to move some of those percentages more a little in line, but still giving our sports organizations a discount compared to other folks.
Okay. All right, and sounds like, obviously this is not the first time this has happened. You've been doing this for a couple of years, but is there a typical routine of, obviously you have your sports organization, but when it comes to programming, how do you get input from the general public that are out there routinely taking classes to get their feedback as well?
So the programming is a different scenario. So the programming, staff looks at what the going rates are kind of within the community. We look at when the last time things were raised. We look at if staffing costs have gone up, supply costs have gone up. Usually with programming, it's anywhere from a 2 to 5% increase on any given 2-year budget. That's kind of been the process I've been working on. With the sports and the fields and the facilities, that is different. We, specifically with the sports leagues, but there was actually, I think before 2012, there were actually no charges. So it's been something that they went to small charges and then some increased charges, and then they went several years with no increases. So when I came on board in 2016, it had been like 4 years since they had any, or it might have been ever, that they had an increase. And that's why I believe that they're behind a little bit. So it's just, I want to try to get them caught up to where we're not, right with everyone else, not higher than everyone else, but at a good rate to help pay our water and our, everything that it takes to take care of our fields to an extent. And then be able to set something up to where in the future I can say, all right, every 2 years we're not going to have an increase over 2 to 5%. So it might be 2% each year or 5% one year and nothing the next year or that type of thing. So then our organizations can plan better and know this is kind of what's going to happen.
Okay. And I did have one line item question out of curiosity. This is on page 43. Under the sports organizations, at the bottom, additional rental fees for mobile stage. It has the different classes around here. So if I'm in class 1, the youth 501c3, I only get charged $21 to use the mobile stage?
That's what it says right now.
And is that supposed to cover everybody's cost to move that out there and return it back to its home base?
I believe that's per hour.
The cost.
Yeah, that's an hourly.
It's an hourly rate.
Okay.
First of all, that's correct.
Okay.
But I do not believe that anything in class 1 is to cover any of the full cost. If you look at class 4, which is the in-district rate,
Yes?
that would be a rate more to cover the actual cost of the, whatever it does for staff and time.
Okay. All right.
And by arrangement only, just so you know, the mobile stage isn't a rental stage, so we're not like Lister Rents and rent out our stage. It's only if it's a CRPD affiliated or sponsored program or another municipality. So that's how we've limited it to specific. So it's not just anyone can rent a stage. It's got to be part of our event or another government agency.
Yeah, just caught my attention, the dollar figure for what I perceive as
that was
massive undertaking to get that from point A to point B and back again. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions? Director Huffer?
Yeah, Elaine, not Elaine, Rochelle, I assume that the current user groups will be notified that their fees will be remaining the same?
Yes, we can have the sports department, Dan or Paul, send a note out to everyone that the 2021 year would remain as current.
Okay. And I know I think I asked this question last time or recently, but for groups that have already paid the reservation fees and they've had to cancel events, those fees are refundable?
Yep, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but everybody, because of what's going on, everything is being refunded, and those organizations that, book ahead of time and get billed at a certain point obviously will not get billed for the days that we're not able to use.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, also the letter that will go out to the organizations will probably be something to the effect of that there are no increases for this upcoming year, but that we will be setting up meetings to discuss future prices or fees.
Good.
Okay. Any additional questions for Ms. Callis? If not, this is a resolution. Director Huffer.
I'd like to move adoption of resolution 040220-B, setting the facility and filming fees and charges for the Canary Recreation and Park District effective July 1st, 2020. Reading to be read in summary only, no future readings.
You got through it. We understand. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Holt. Are there any additional comments or questions? Aline, read entitled only, please.
Resolution 040220-B, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Canary Recreation and Park District adopting a fee schedule for district ordinance.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions by board members? If not, roll call vote, please.
Director Lang,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Holt,
Yes.
Director Huffer,
Yes.
Director Cuthbert.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. We've already covered item 9C. We're moving on to 9D. Emergency Care and Shelter Services Memorandum of Understanding among the City of Thousand Oaks, Canary Recreation Park District, and Cal Lutheran University and the American Red Cross of Ventura County. Staff, please.
Thank you, Chair Lang, members of the board. I just didn't want Tom to have to talk tonight, so I thought I'd take care of everything on the agenda. So first of all, the actual in the subject, the agreement, and I think you guys were sent the updated agreement. I got it from the city after I'd already given everything to you, but the CLU is actually not in the final agreement. They have their own agreement with American Red Cross. I just wanted to make that clear. This agreement is actually for the American Red Cross, the City of Thousand Oaks, and CRPD. So basically, a little tiny bit of history, 2018, when all the tragedies happened and it kind of everybody just jumped in and did whatever needed to be done. Through that process, we learned some things, learned we maybe needed to do some things a little bit differently, or maybe needed to tighten up some of our ways that we were doing things. And so Graham over at the city took the lead on this, and which has been great. And he worked with us and the American Red Cross to come up with this agreement to give us some clarification for two different things, just that each one of us, all three organizations, understand what our responsibilities are in an emergency. And then also the second thing was that in the emergency, in order for CRPD to report out and collect reimbursement funds for some of the things that we did, we learned that we had to be working with the city and have an MOU, an agreement with the city. So this meets that need now, so that we, in the future, when we have emergencies and the city asks us to do certain things, we would fall under this agreement, and there would be opportunity, or if there was opportunity for us to collect through FEMA or other organizations, we would be able to. So that is what this is doing. In the future, there will be a care and shelter plan that we are working with Ventura County Health and Human Services, with the American Red Cross and the city and us, that we are coming up with kind of a play-by-play type thing of who does what and how you do things. And that's something that we'll bring to you guys at a future date. That'll be more of a presentation, discussion type thing, just so you guys have a heads up of, you know, what the four organizations' roles are in an emergency. With that, I am available for questions.
Are there any questions of Ms. Callis? Yes, Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Callis, might be picky, but I just was noticing on page 69 of the agreement under parties, where it lists the Canary Recreation and Park District, in that little, one-sentence description, it has that the CRP is a special district that manages parks and trails, and then refers to COSCA as a joint powers authority. But there's no reference to recreation facilities, which I thought was interesting, in that the very facilities that would be part of the emergency care are the centers that we operate, and yet it's not identified there.
I think that this is just a general description of CRPD and what we do, and that we are part of COSCA. I don't think it was specific to be like we have recreational facilities. It's just more in general that we are a special district, managing parks, trails, I think.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That was
the intent. I remember that. That was the intent, is just kind of give a general of who we are.
Okay, any additional comments or questions?
That was what since those facilities would be used as part of this agreement.
I mean, I can make a suggestion to the city to add in district that manages parks, facilities, and trails in Thousand Oaks.
Yeah, they would change it, and yeah, we need to have them execute it anyway, so I'm sure that would be fine.
They're going to be taking it to city council at their next meeting this month also. So I could have that changed, and if you approve it with that change, and the general manager can sign it, and then I can let the city know that.
Okay, thank you.
Can you describe exactly the change?
Yeah, it would be the CRPD is a special district that manages facilities, parks, and trails in Thousand Oaks, including the Canay Open Space Conservancy.
Just adding the word facility. Yeah, or
Or
you
park.
may use specifically recreation facilities. You know, if you want to be very specific, recreation facilities, parks, and trails.
Okay, Aline, you have that?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Director Nichols, any other comments or questions?
I did have a question on page 72 under city responsibilities. About 3/4 down the paragraph, it says city will utilize the SEMS system, but I didn't see that defined anywhere. Do you know what that is?
That's the standardized emergency management system.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. That was it, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Any other board members have comments or questions on this agreement? Good to see this being established. So everybody knows what we're all doing. Okay, I'd entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move approval of staff recommendation to approve the Emergency Care and Shelter Services Memorandum of Understanding among the City of Thousand Oaks, Crpd, and American Red Cross of Ventura County.
A second.
And with the change in the text as
Yes, with the removal.
Yes, as modified.
very good, very good. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? If not, roll call vote, please.
Director Lang,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes,
Director Holt,
Yes.
Director Hubbard,
Yes.
Director Cuthbert.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. We're moving on to item 10, reports and announcements. Do we have any reports and announcements? None posted. We're going on to item 11, department reports. Tom, it's your turn. 11A.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Chair Lang, members of the board. I'm ecstatic to be here, but I have no report tonight, and I'm available
What?
for questions.
Are you taking over for
Yes,
Cheryl?
I'm trying to I'm keeping Cheryl, the ghost of Cheryl alive. The ghost of Cheryl.
Mr. Chair, I do have one question.
Go ahead and ask our Mr. Parks man a question.
Mr. Parksman Hare,
Yes, Director.
our last meeting, you were contemplating changing your schedule for field refurbishments based on the lack of use of current fields. Is there any update on that?
Yes, in addition, so we were, for a good analogy, we're thinking like we were, at that time, thinking outside the box, right? And so we sat down on Monday this week and we actually thought outside that box. And what we're going to be doing is some field refurbishments now, currently. It won't be to the extent that I think, visibly to the extent that you'd be used to, like, fencing off fields and that sort. But because of the incredible amount of low usage we're getting on the fields, we feel we could do field refurbishments at multiple locations and maybe just have to, maybe a place where we're resodding and like a short area, like in front, like usually where like the goal area is on a soccer field, we might have to do like a orange snow fence around that just to keep that from people being on that. But yes, we are, in short, we are moving forward with that. We feel this should be fairly successful at multiple fields throughout the district and with minimal amount of intrusion to operations of what we're doing now and what will be happening in the future.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions of Mr. Hare? If not, Ms. Callis, Recreation Division.
Thank you, Chair Lang. I do have more stuff to share with you guys. So, as you've heard tonight, things have been pretty crazy and whatnot, but I did want to do a shout out to my managers, Tim and Melissa. Have been working really hard with all the supervisors and everybody, and just been really flexible with everything that's going on. And then also, the HR, Shelley, is amazing. She's kept me sane in the last couple of weeks and has just been so good at maneuvering everything because we have a lot of staff, almost 200 staff that have questions and they don't know if they have jobs, and many of them don't have jobs and hours and whatnot. And so Shelley's done just a really excellent job putting up with me and all of us. So I really appreciate that. And our marketing team, Kathy and Kelly, have been amazing as far as switching kind of and maneuvering, going from, hey, we're working on spring catalog, and then we're working on summer catalog, and oh no, we got to change this up, and now it's going to be smaller and less information, and what do we do? And it's just been a constant change all the time. So, you know, virtual website, and all of a sudden we got staff doing, you know, videos on Instagram and YouTube. If you know, are hooked up to any of our sites, most of them have Instagram. We've got teachers doing different little things, some really cute stuff to just try to stay in front of the community and remind the community that we are here for them, and that as soon as this is over and it gets back to some kind of a norm, whatever the new norm is going to be, that we're going to be here for them, we're going to adjust, and we're going to overcome this. So, you know, those departments we don't always hear about, and I just, you know, we can't do what we do without their support, so I really appreciate that. With that, you have your division highlights. There's some really good stuff in there. I'll just call out a few things. Julie's team at Kanay Senior Volunteer Program, they have learned all about masks, and they have made over 250 masks for 6 different hospitals and or medical facilities. They're in the process of making more, so we're keeping our seniors who are usually in the center busy sewing and doing different things. We are actually getting them the materials, or Julie and her team and Patty are getting them the materials out in the field, and these seniors are busy and they're feeling really good about themselves, and they're giving back to their community, so that's pretty exciting. Jim already mentioned senior nutrition programs. They are now seeing about 80 people a day, though, and the numbers are just going up. And again, they were supposed to be closed for a week, you guys. When this happened, they reopened the next day with staff. And our chef was on vacation because we were supposed to be closed. So our staff did the cooking and getting the food out for that first week. And now our chef is back, and he is like doubling what we, you know, usually we do 50, 60 maybe. So we're pretty sure by the end of the week we're going to be hitting close to the 100 on a day. The food share, Jim already told you, started. The blood drives, we actually have 3 more scheduled. So we're working with 2 different organizations, American Red Cross being one of them. And they're hitting, I think what I heard was 100 on Tuesday that they served. So, and then Vitalant blood drive, they actually work straight with Los Robles Hospital, and so we did theirs today, and I wouldn't be surprised if they come back and do some more in the future. Safe Passage is going really well. We have staff that are working out there serving lunch 5 days a week, and then Safe Passage actually does some additional stuff on the weekends for the kids. But we got a donation yesterday or the day before. A woman called, and her organization is Little Up From Grandma, and she put together these little packets for the kids at 850 Warwick with like toothpaste, toothbrush, hair, you know, comb and stuff like that. So all the kids got that. That was a nice little surprise along with their lunch that day. Preschool teachers are getting a little bit of work hours. We're allowing them to telecommute, and I think you're going to end up seeing on the virtual website some really cute stories and songs and stuff like that. I've recently viewed a couple things that I really like, and I'd like to get up on the website. Borger's doing an awesome job. There's a couple websites there. You can check it out. I already mentioned the marketing and the Acorn. You already saw that. We are actually, marketing is also working on, along with Mark and with IT, we're working on an employee-only website, and this is going to probably be up early next week, but it will be a website that only employees can get onto. They will be able to ask questions, get questions answered from the park department, the rec department, the HR department, and then we'll have like some FAQs on it, and especially with everything that's going on right now, it'll be a really nice central location, kind of like the COVID site on the website, but it's not going to be for the general public, it's going to be for the employees. So if they have questions about their benefits, unemployment, those types of things, they will be able to go there, hopefully get answers or get into different websites and or ask Melissa a question or me a question or Tom a question. And so we'll be able to get back to them on that. So we're pretty excited about that. On the back side is the unfortunate stuff, the real impact financially and staff-wise that we're having. So overall, $286,000 is what we're showing right now in the books as refunded because of cancellation of 2 weeks of winter and all of spring, affecting, you know, over 3,500 participants. The facilities, we had about $33,000 in actual refunds, and then we have over $50,000 that we never collected on things that were booked. So still lost revenue on that. We expect that number to go up a little bit because they were putting some more information in the computers today. And the thing that kills me the most and the hardest thing to deal with is, as you can see, our part-time staff. We used to employ about 196 people, and they would work about, you know, 2,500 hours, give or take. And we're down to this current week schedule is only 628 hours, and you will see a decrease next week also. And with that sad note, I'm available for any questions.
Are there any questions, Ms. Callis? Yes, Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Callis. I know it was some good news and some sobering news. Appreciate at least giving us the faithful as it comes. And I know you'll be letting us know when things can change if we can be of any assistance in that regard. But I was curious with all this virtual stuff. Sounds like the IT department has been very busy, and we don't have a very big IT department. And I see, you know, Mr. Segedy is here in all his glory. Appreciate your being here this evening as well. With this kind of, I know it's evolving rapidly, but have you been able to kind of incorporate some of these younger staff who are a little more adept at this than me, I know for sure, to help with some of this? Are they creating some ideas? Are you pestering them to come up with ideas? I mean, with this virtual, how did this thing get started? I mean, where is this coming from? Staff, you, Mark, all of the above? How's that been?
Kind of a little bit of all of the above. So, you know, the virtual website, I think someone saw it on CPRS or saw that someone else had kind of started it, and we said, hey, what can we do? Marketing, take a look at this, figure out what you can glean, you know. The videos and stuff like that, we are tapping into our staff, those that can telework and stuff, so they're able to, and we're giving them hours that they can do stuff at home, and then they're able to put it on the websites and stuff where we're really using IT, and I would see in the future, IT and the marketing department both growing. Definitely, you know, we're all calling him when we're like, how does the team work, and what's this Zoom thing? And we have to have classes on how to, you know, all right, we're going to show everybody how this works, and everybody needs to learn how to work their team app, and which is a 365 thing, which is really cool. So there's all these just new different things that we're learning, and his department is having to teach us. And now we're trying to get people to work and do some of these out-of-the-box creative type things, and so we're allowing them to work from home to an extent, certain people, and so now we're like, oh, well, what equipment are you using at home? And now people are like, well, my computer doesn't do this. Well, your computer's from 2007. Yeah, it's not going to do that. So, you know, figuring out what that new role is for the IT department, too. So everybody's been really good at very patient as everything has changed, and Mark and his team, John specifically and DW are really good at helping all of us out that need assistance. And then we do have, you know, certain people on the rec team that are very high IT people, and so a lot of times they can help us out too.
Yeah, because one thing you stated earlier, which really, you know, caught me, as you say, we're trying to stay in the face of our customers. And I think that's important. Say, hey, I'm here, hey, whatever. And I think if you can be creative, give people the flexibility to, hey, make your own YouTube video, let us see it before you broadcast it. You know, you got an idea, get people involved, get them creative, because they can do a lot of things at home, and it gets their face, like you said, in front of their personal constituency, because I know there's a lot of families out there who follow certain instructors and certain things that they like. I think the more we can find creative ways like that to do it, and I was even thinking of, like these pop-up ideas now. They have a pop-up class or whatever. Yeah, it's not programming, but hey, everybody, we're doing this next week, this just came up. In the same way, when things start to unfold, we're not going to have a set of classes ready to go, so we're going to be in the pop-up phase for a while. Just say, okay, and get them thinking along that line. Hey, how do we get ready to jump when someone says we're free to move?
Oh, we will be ready. We already have the classes for summer picked out, but it'll change. We were going to have a class for 20 kids, and now all of a sudden we have guidelines that say we can't have groups more than 10, then we've got to rearrange that. So, and with every great new idea that staff has, or we think outside of the box with something, the difficult and challenging part is I've got to work with, or staff has to work with HR, IT,
Yes.
marketing, legal, whatever it is, to make sure whatever that is, we can actually do it. How fast can we do it? Just to telecommute. I mean, there were forms that had to be made up. We have to get people to sign them, that legal had to look at it. There's so many aspects to move something that has to happen before you can actually do it, but I think we're in a place where the big reaction stuff is starting to calm, and we're going to be able to spend the next several weeks hopefully pushing some stuff out and keeping in touch with our members and our clients.
Good. Looking forward to that, because I know it's a weekly challenge, daily challenge. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you, Director Nichols. And Cussworth, I think I see your hand there.
So I want to congratulate you and your team. I know how difficult this is, and I'm hoping maybe in the future this might even open up a whole nother realm for CRPD to take classes for people that are homebound or who can't get out. Or I know that Maggie, who does yoga here, she's been doing some virtual classes that you actually, pay for. So some of her loyal followers, and then, so I'm just saying it might be a whole nother little section that we're offering with all of your hard work to even, access more people in the community. But I know that this just must be a nightmare. So thank you so much for all you're doing.
Thank you, Director Cussworth. Director Huffer.
Yeah, Rochelle, with the kids out of school for the rest of the year, and I'm sure going through all kinds of issues, and I'm drawing a blank on their names, but our three staff members who go out to the middle schools and high schools to work with the kids, are they somehow able to connect with some of the kids who need their help the most?
Outreach.
Yeah, one of
Outreach.
the staff at Outreach, Pete, is actually making individual phone calls approximately once a week to the kids that we have information on that he keeps in touch with, just to kind of see how they're doing, what their needs are, and that type of thing.
Great.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Rochelle, in your report about refunds, you were talking about a $50,000 figure, and that wasn't actually class registration refunds, if I remember right. Can you expand on that again?
Yes, so there's a revenue loss in bills and fees and reservations. So the sports organizations that do the 2 times a year allocation, they don't pay up front. So we schedule all their classes, and then we bill them a couple times throughout the allocation. So those folks that aren't going to use those dates, they haven't paid us, but we're not going to collect anything because they didn't use the date. So our current revenue loss for those types of events is about $54,000.
Okay,
Or if you had a picnic scheduled for 6 months down the road and you hadn't paid all the fees for the picnic yet, that's not due until 45 days before the picnic. We haven't collected it yet. Obviously, we're not going to collect it.
okay. Okay, big hit for sure. Thank you. Oh, and I will be forwarding an email to you for probably the virtual, if it fits in, on art, an art program that another group did.
Get it up.
Okay, any other comments or questions for Rochelle? If not, Melissa Smith, Management Services Division report.
Yes, thank you. I do want to echo the shout outs to staff who have just stepped up tremendously. Loretta with finance doing all the refunds and also finding ways for us to track all these expenses in case there is an opportunity for reimbursement, and Shelley helping us decipher the Families First Act. And I have experience reading legislation and it's challenging. So a huge kudos to her, and then to Mark and IT for all of this and teaching us all how to use Zoom and everything else we need right now. So it's really appreciated. But Cheryl has taught me well and continues to teach me well. So officially I have a report and I'm available for questions.
Okay, are there any questions for Melissa? Okay, Mr. General Manager report.
Yeah, I think I won't take up more time praising staff. I think I did that a little earlier, but again, I too am so grateful for all their support and for the board's interest and questions and support through these last few weeks. It's just been really nuts. So I definitely welcome and appreciate the board's occasional call and input and thoughts. So thank you so much. And I know some of you are, by the order, pretty much stuck at home. So we're thinking about you guys as well and encouraging everyone to stay healthy. I do want to give a shout out to the city of Thousand Oaks, and in particular the city manager, Drew Powers, because I have watched or participated in his almost daily briefings with his team, the city department heads, and I think he's doing a really fine job of leading the city organization and keeping the information flow going and trying to move the city to be as responsive during this time as possible. So a really welcome partner. And kind of finally, the folks that, if anyone watches, a part-time person that isn't on the schedule because we don't have the work, I think my message to them is, you're very highly valued. We totally appreciate what you do. This is an unprecedented and unfortunate situation. And as things start to come back to normal, if you're around and able, we obviously are interested in keeping the family together. So that's we're thinking about you as well. With that, I'm available for questions.
Good message, Jim. Okay, are there any questions of our general manager? Okay, if not, we're going on to item 11E, director's reports and follow-up reports on meetings and conferences attended. Have you all been at your conference? Anybody want to report? Well, I actually have some reports. Monday was the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and Advisory Committee telephonic meeting, and I don't know the exact count, but I'm gonna say like mid-20s that participated. So it was a little of a challenge, managing that meeting. And then yesterday, the MRCA had a couple meetings, a regular scheduled meeting and a couple special meetings associated with the activities that were required for passing. And I think that's it. Yes, Director Huffer.
Actually, there was one meeting that I actually took part in on the 24th. Director Cusworth and I, along with staff and consultants, met telephonically, electronically for the revenue measure meeting. Nothing was decided, but moving forward with at least putting together, we spent a lot of time talking about the survey that the consultants are putting together. So that's continuing to move forward.
Very good, thank you. Any other directors with the need for sharing their report?
Nellie's
I'm not
waving her
on
hand.
any committee, so it doesn't matter.
I don't see the, oh, there we go. Director Custer. It was very small before, I couldn't see it.
So I haven't done very much. There hasn't been much to do, but I did hike for the Costco Challenge 2 trails before they all closed. I don't think I'll be doing any more. I couldn't report them if I did. So I'm sure that's been canceled, but other than that, I've been home a lot.
Okay.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chair.
No hikes, Mr. Nichols?
Nothing that I can confess to.
Okay, very good. Okay, anything else? We're moving on to item 12, request for status reports and items for subsequent agendas. Seeing no hands, or is that Director Nichols?
Mr. Chair? Yeah, just a request for the general manager. Again, thank you for the thorough report, but if you could just, again, each time we do meet, every couple of weeks, make sure we do have, whatever the latest and greatest. It may be another 24 pages of all the things that happened, but doing that, and particularly with the, since we are in the position of calling our own shot, so to speak, with opening or closing trails, and I know we're getting a lot of input. I'm getting personal phone calls on that and emails. A lot of folks are interested in that. Just, if you could just take a pulse of that from the folks that you contact with, because I know we are on that bridge between LA County and the rest of Ventura County. So whatever is going to happen here, we're going to get from both directions. But just on, what our options are, whether it be staff observations. I know the rangers are out there. Tom's staff is out there quite a bit. On, what our options are. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, Director Nichols. Is that another hand up there, Cusworth? Or you
No, I'm sorry.
picking up your purse? That's okay. All right. Item 13, items from the public. Any public sneak in?
No, we have no one from the public remaining.
Okay. And Mr. General Manager, item 14, assuming there's no need for closed session?
So there's no need for closed session.
Yay.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Staff especially. And Mark Siggety, are you there?
Oh, we've got to thank Mark. I forgot to thank Mark. He's
Okay,
wonderful.
If you're still not in the room, I mean, if you're not in the room, just know that we appreciate you.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, Mark is off camera and off microphone, but he is acknowledging your thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Thanks, everyone.